Hello grade 8s, this is Mr. Miller, and here is your lesson 3.3 on estimating square roots. So, example 1, we are looking at placing the square roots of the perfect squares from 0 to 400 on the number line below. Well, as you recall from previous lessons, a perfect square is a number times itself. So for instance, 0 times 0 is 0. And that means that the square root of 0 is 0. And so here is its location on the number line. Just like 1 times 1 is 1, so 1 is a perfect square, and the square root of 1 is 1. 2 times 2 is 4, and so 4 is a perfect square. The square root of 4 is 2. You can see where all of these square roots are falling on the number line. 3 times 3 is 9, so the square root of 9 is 3. 4 times 4 is 16, the square root of 16 is 4. 5 times 5 is 25. The square root of 25 is 5. 6 times 6 is 36. The square root of 36 is 6. 7 times 7 is 49. The square root of 49 is 7. 8 times 8 is 64. The square root of 64 is 8. 9 times 9 is 81. The square root of 81 is 9. 10 times 10 is 100. The square root of 100 is 10. 11 times 11 is 121. The square root of 121 is 11. 12 times 12 is 144. The square root of 144 is 12. And now that's where your usual times table ends, and I know that maybe not everybody has memorized beyond that, but it is a good idea to start to get familiar with a few more. So for instance, 13 times 13 is 169, and so therefore the square root of 169 is 13. 14 times 14 is 196, and so the square root of 196 is 14. 15 times 15 is 225, and so the square root of 225 is 15. 16 times 16 is 256, and so the square root of 256 is 16. Now, if the numbers start to get too big and you can't remember what some of the other perfect squares are, you can always use your calculator to help you out with that. 17 times 17, in other words 17 squared, is 289. So that means that the square root of 289 is 17. We also have 18 squared to do here, and 18 squared is 324. And so that means that the square root of 324 is 18. And go on to do 19 squared. 19 squared is 361, and so the square root of 361 is 19, and 20 times 20 is 400, and so the square root of 400 is 20. So now we can see where we've got quite a few we can see where we've got quite a few square roots on the number line, and they're the square roots of perfect squares. And that will really help us out in calculating other square roots So, for instance, in example 2 here, it says, given that the square root of 49 is 7, we saw that on the number line here, and the square root of 64 is 8, we also saw that on the number line there. So first of all, we're being asked to estimate the square root of 51 to 1 decimal place. Well, so 51 is somewhere in between 49 and 64. It's closer to 49 than it is to 64. So you might estimate that this value is going to be 7 point something low. So maybe 7.2 might be a good estimate. Let's see how close our estimate is to the actual value using our calculator. So when I take the square root of 51, the actual value is 7.1. It's 7.14, so it's actually closer to 7.2 than you might think. 7.1 is the value rounded off to 1 decimal place. Alright. So as you can see, once we have an idea about the location of some very well-known square roots on the number line, we can figure out where some other ones are based on this 51 under the radical sign here being close to 49, which is a perfect square that we know very well. We can figure out the square root of 51 pretty easily from there. Now, you're being asked to add the square root of 51 to the number line in example 1. So that 7.1 should go right here. So that would be where the square root of 51 should go, because it's approximately 7.1 rounded to 1 decimal place, and so it's 1/10 of the way from 7 to 8. Okay. Next, it says to find a whole number whose square root is between 5 and 6. So, let's do some reasoning here. We know that 5 squared is 25, and we know that 6 squared is 36. And so, therefore, if we choose a number like 30, that will work as an answer, because if you take the square root of 30, you should get a number between 5 and 6. We know that the square root of 25 is 5, the square root of 36 is 6, so therefore the square root of 30 should be in between. You might guess it's about halfway in between. Let's find out exactly where that is using our calculator. The square root of 30, the exact value is 5.5 when it's rounded to 1 decimal place. So that is definitely between 5 and 6. So finally, we need to find a whole number whose square root is between 11 and 12. So again, I'm going to square 11, that's 121, and I'm going to square 12, which is 144, and I'm going to pick any whole number in between. So for instance, I could say 137 if I like. And that is a valid answer, and I know it's going to be valid because when I do the square root of 137, I know that the square root of 137 should be somewhere between 11 and 12, because 137 is between 121 and 144. So since it is closer to 144 than it is to 121, I'm going to, I would be guessing that it would be 11 point high. So maybe 11.8. Let's see if I'm close when I do this on the calculator. The square root of 137 is actually 11.7. So, but 11.7 is between 11 and 12, and that's what we're looking for. Okay, so that wraps it up. Pretty quick lesson today. And so the regular assignment is listed here, and the honors assignment is listed here. And thank you for watching this video.